Okay, and you can see my screen. I'll just expand it here so you can see the full screen. So I've already introduced myself a bit, but I would say we're going to kind of go through tip by tip. The number one being starting with the syllabus or UR courses. And this is your starting point. Hopefully, most of your instructors, if not all of your instructors, will have your courses set up online. And they do this in whether it's a face-to-face course, as we used to have, or in this case, a remote course. And this is really an important piece. And the first, part of this seems really common sense. You will, on your UR courses page at some point, you're going to have likely a syllabus. Sometimes it'll be a separate document. Sometimes it'll be sort of integrated into UR courses, like something like this, where you kind of have it there. But most of the time, you'll have some sort of syllabus. What's really important is when you look through that syllabus, there's really essential information that you'll need. It'll mean how to connect with your instructor, preferred contact information, so you don't have to find it later. Particular office hours. Many instructors will actually have virtual office hours. And so these are things that are really important, especially for the next step. Once you go through this, and once you understand what the course is like, what sort of assignments are in the course, and what the due dates are, you want to kind of take this to the next step, because obviously if you're taking 4 or 5 courses or 3 or whatever number of courses you're taking per semester, this is going to be very difficult to keep track of everything. And unlike, if you've come from the high school experience, teachers are providing you a lot more support to kind of keep you on task. And it's not to say that your professors here at Campion won't do that as well, but typically there's more onus put on the student to really keep up. And this is where technology comes in really handy if you're able to use it to manage your life. So again, taking out the really important information from a syllabus and from your UR courses for each course is going to be the first place to start. And then it's setting up your initial schedule. Now, UR courses has a calendaring tool if it's been enabled, but typically I recommend using something that is more compatible with something you may already have, and more compatible universally. So for instance, I use Google Calendar. I'm not saying you have to use Google Calendar. You always have to understand that, it is a US company that has your data. So always remember that there are privacy implications of using a third-party cloud application. But I've personally felt that the convenience of using something like this is probably worth the data that they're taking. Now, that may not be the same for everyone. So if you want to find alternate calendars that works, the method here is essentially the same. And so the first thing I would do is once as you're looking for through the calendar, looking for due dates, a really wise way of doing this is to start to input information into your calendar. And of course, this has really good integration with your Android or iPhone if you have it. For any mobile devices, you can also set reminders. So for instance, if you want to set times that when your courses actually are, so if you have synchronous times, what if we have, for instance, maybe starting on Thursday the 3rd of September, you might have Econ 100, for instance. And then you can add that. You can add that there. You can actually even add if it repeats. So if it repeats at that particular time for how many weeks, you can schedule it throughout your semester. And that's really easy to do. So you can go weekly on Thursday, and then you can decide the number of times or the cutoff time for that. And then basically you can hit save. Now, I think I've done this forever because I haven't looked at the specifics, but it's fairly easy to do. And then you can go, for instance, I'm not sure what the last day of classes is this year, but We'll say we'll say December, I don't know, 10. I'm not sure what it is. You'll have to check. So basically that is in my calendar at 1 p.m. every Thursday. Oh, I put it too long. I screwed up there, sorry. I put it for the entire thing. That's a really long section. Dismiss, I forgot to put the repeating on. Here we go. And of course I can edit that. Edit each one. And then we don't want it actually to be that long of a class. So I'll go back to September 3rd. There we go. And then you can do that again manually, or you can repeat for the number of weeks you want to do that. So once you have the courses in, so I can say, oh yeah, it says edit recording a week, and then I'm going to edit that event. So once I've got my classes in, then you want to also start putting in all of your due dates. So for instance, you may have a due date on October, this is September, I'll move it ahead, October 1st. I guess that was October 1st. So I've got that econ running too long. Okay, so we'll ignore that. So we might have like a midterm, for instance, here. And you can set a particular time for that midterm, or maybe there's a paper due. What's also really nice about this is you can set a reminder on those on the dates as well. So you could put this a week ahead, 3 days ahead, depending on the assignment. You may be able to set a reminder at particular times, and that just really helps. So you can go back, decide that you can put a reminder, and then if you have notifications on your desktop, or if you have notifications set up on your phone, you can be notified that you have something coming up. So the calendaring piece is really quite important in this overall piece. So I would do this, you can do this in a number of different ways. You can just set up one calendar, or you can set up a calendar for each course. So for instance, if you really want to differentiate, you could go create a new calendar for Econ 100. And then that would be one particular color in your calendar. Then you can set up dates just appropriate to that calendar. And then you can set up another calendar. So maybe you have an math 100, I'm just making up things here. And then I can create another calendar. So when you go back to your calendar, you'll actually see that these classes are individual calendars. So you can at any time see what's up with econ or math, and then you can actually see, and then you can actually add dates or not view them or whatever else on these particular calendars. So when you're adding something, this time if you've got multiple calendars, you can actually just choose which calendar you actually want to put it in, and that's quite helpful in that. So understanding your calendar tool is probably the most important starting place. And that goes with your better understanding of all the due dates and so on from the syllabus. So that's the first thing I would absolutely do. So you set up your initial schedule, which I've done this. Then you want to look at some note taking. I think I've got this down here. Oops. Where am I going to put this? Okay. Yeah, we'll start doing that here. So the note-taking piece, and maybe you use the Microsoft tool, maybe you use some sort of online note-taking tool. I use Google Drive, and I'm going to use a blank Google Drive. I've got multiple Google accounts, which may or may not be useful to you. You can have as many as you want. But I'm going to set up my drive as an empty one here. And so one of the first things that you may want to do is start up with your Google Drive, creating folders first of all. And this is where you might want to do your daily notes. So I'm going to go create a new folder here in my Google Drive. I'll call this Econ 100. And I might create another folder in this drive as well. So I might call this math 100. And then you have multiple folders here. And this is going to be really important for organizing your work. Some people will even go, if they'll go into Econ 100 and then they'll create a document And so maybe you want to create a single document for all of your notes for that particular class. I'm going to go create a Google Doc. Sometimes people will say, notes for September 10th, 2020. And then you can put that in. This is all doing this, and you can share that. Of course, you can do that for yourself. But you'll notice here that I have a notes for September 10th. So you could do this all and create blank templates if you like, and then you could actually go and when you're in class or when you're actually in that online class, you can pull this out and you'll always have your notes handy. Now, some people will just create one note document and then they'll separate it in the document itself. But I like to personally, when I'm doing meetings or whatever else, I like to organize it by date. And to create multiple documents, probably I would just suggest using the duplicate or make a copy. So you could create one, and then I could just say, for this one, because I know I'm going to have a synchronous meeting the next week, I might go September 17th, 2020. And then you have yet another blank document that you're ready to use. And then when you go back here, you have the documents ready to go. And of course, what's really nice about this, and if you want to really, and we'll talk more about sort of networks a bit later, but one of the things that you could do as well is share these documents. So you could maybe find classmates and you can actually take any one of these documents and you can share notes together. But one way or the other, note-taking, whether collaboratively or individually, the organization really makes a big difference doing this sort of thing. So again, Google Drive is the one I would use, but some of you may have access to Microsoft OneNote. You could just even do this on your desktop. If you don't want to use cloud computing, you can just create a folder on your Windows or Mac PC. Just create a folder on your desktop and use Word documents if you want. Just make sure that you're backing things up, probably in a cloud or just to another hard drive. So that would be, setting up your notes. And if you do this right at the beginning of the semester with all your classes, then you can just go in. You don't have to create a new document. You don't have to look for it. It's just there and ready to go. Now, once you've set up your initial schedule, it's really going to be important to organize your physical space. So this is probably one of these really key things. And some of you will have nicer spaces than others or more organized, but this is really key. So having a desk, having a comfortable space, so having a consistent place where you actually spend some time working online or offline is really quite important. And what you see in the photograph here is, again, you've got some room, you've got multiple ways of taking notes. Maybe you like to instead take notes manually. There's nothing wrong with that. You can still use the same Google Drive method that I just showed you, and where you could actually just upload your notes afterwards to each one of those drives if you'd rather do it that way. And just having a collection of tools like pens and paper, highlighters, whatever you think you need when you're note-taking. Now, there is some research saying that typing notes is less effective than actually writing notes, because it actually because there's sort of the motor skills that are connected to your neural pathways allow for longer retention. So some people really like to take notes manually with a pen. My handwriting is really bad, so I don't tend to do that. Or, of course, even taking photographs of the screen at a time if you want to do that. There's different ways of organizing that. In lots of cases, what you'll find is instructors will share their PowerPoints, share their notes. A lot of that stuff will be online, so of course you can certainly do that as well, but you can augment it. But you can always, download one version of it and then change it a bit if you like. Of course, with the instructor's permission. Organizing your digital space is just as important, if not more important, as organizing your physical space. So this means a lot of different things. So I mentioned, organizing your notes with Google Drive, and that would be one part of that, just kind of getting that space ready, easy to get to very quickly. Some people use to-do lists. Google has that as well, but you can also just use something as a third party. Maybe you've tried different things. Todoist is a very popular one that has really nice web integration. You can also do this right in Google Calendar. So you don't necessarily have to get a third-party app. A lot of this is done, but when you do get a third-party app like Todoist, they're usually more featureful, and they do integrate with something like Google Calendar. So your to-do list can be something that is still integrates with your calendar tool. Most of that does that. Then, there's a number of different Chrome extensions, and I just want to highlight some of my favorite. Again, your browser, whether you use Chrome or Firefox or Edge or Safari, is going to be really important. As you noticed here, I use Google Chrome typically. Sometimes I use Firefox, but across most of these browsers, there's going to be common extensions or plugins. So depending on the browser you're using, they may be called extensions or plugin. So for instance, this is one called Google Keep, and I'll just show you how that works. So hopefully you can see my screen. So if I'm on like a free site like Gutenberg.org, I'll just go to there's Project Gutenberg. This is a place where you can get lots of free ebooks. And resources are going to be important to this as well. So I'm just going to grab a random book of some sort, if I can get to it. Here we go. I have no idea. Let's see. So here's a novel from 1921 called Purple Springs. And so if I want to read this, I can read this book online. And maybe I want to keep part of it. I want to take the first chapter because I want this, or I'm reading an article and I want to keep part of this. If you highlight something on the page and you're using something called Google Keep, which I've added here, you can, I think I can do a right click on this. You can actually, once you download the extension, you do a control click on a Mac or a right click on a PC, and then you can save the selection to keep. And so that goes to Keep, and then I can actually view it in Google Keep and see what my Google Keep looks like. And so right there, you not only have the link of what you have, of the page you took it from, so it keeps the link, but whatever you've taken, and that can include images or whatever else. But this is just like a really easy note-keeping app. You can also share it with a friend. You can organize this by labels, which essentially is the same thing as folders. So you can make, if you're using this in association with, the folders you have in Google Drive, you could have like notes. This is really great for like an essay if you're researching an essay, and you want to keep all of your notes around, and then you want to put these things together. Google Keep's fantastic for this. So it's if you've used Evernote or OneNote, very similar tools. Those are other ones. I think Evernote is actually owned by Google. OneNote is a Microsoft product. Most of you, if you've been in high schools in Regina, probably have used something like OneNote, Keep, or Evernote. So one of those might work. So that's again a kind of a note-taking tool that you can use fairly easily that helps you to organize things in your digital space. There's a lot of other Chrome extensions, and I will just view some of them. So I said to do this, but first, before we get into all those Chrome extensions, I want to share, sorry, I'm going to see if you can actually hear this video first. But this is kind of one of the problems that we get into. And Sarah, if you can't hear this at all, the audio, please let me know, because I'm not 100% sure the audio is working.
To be fully present on the internet, at any given moment is a very rare thing. You're trying to write a paper, and so you've got that open in Google Docs, and then you're like, well, maybe I should read a little bit more about the thing I'm writing about, and then there's a link in there. You're like, this is a little tangential, but maybe it's interesting that I should know about meerkats. Ooh, the meerkats lay eggs. I didn't know that. Is that correct? And then there's videos of not just meerkats, but three-toed sloths. Oh my gosh, these things are actually like traded in inhumane ways. I should probably get involved with some sort of activism there. So you're like joining the Facebook page, telling your friends like, this isn't right what we're doing to the sloths. And then you're like, who liked my sweet pics that I posted this morning on Facebook? Wow, it's my ex-girlfriend. Is she still into me? Maybe I'll spend 30 minutes composing a message that I never send, or if I did send, that I then regret and spend the next hour composing a message retracting that, and then I'm like, whoa, I've gotten a lot done on my paper. Not.
It is actually true that the more that you use sort of media, and if you're a heavy multitasker, sometimes your attention really suffers. So what you see here, heavy media multitaskers are more susceptible to interference from irrelevant environmental stimuli. So you're kind of, you see something very quickly and you're led astray. And you'll notice here, like at the top of this screen here, you notice all of these tabs open up. And that's really easy to do when you're using any type of browser. All of a sudden these tabs are up and it's hard to organize these things. So there are, oops, I have to share my screen again. So there's a number of Google, of Chrome extensions or Firefox plugins or whatever you may find to help with this distraction. And I'll show you some of my favorite. So before I could do that, you should be able to see my screen. Howard Rheingold says of this phenomena, he actually talks about attention literacy, because attention is really hard to cope with. That our most fundamental technological affordance is not just any technology, it's our own attention. And this idea of intention leads to attention, this idea that we have to be very mindful and purposeful of where we're spending our attention. And there, if you use a Google or Android phone, there are apps that tell you about where you're using your screen time. If you're spending too much time on Minecraft or Fortnite or whatever this site might be, you can tell very quickly where you're spending your time and your priorities. Now, thinking about some of the Chrome extensions I use, this is probably one of my most favorite ones, because we know that advertising causes a lot of time wasted and distractions. So there is something called Adblock. The one I use is uBlock Origin. Once you've installed this, you're not going to see ads for YouTube videos. This is something that works on a desktop computer. You're not going to see ads on the side of the screen. You're not going to see ads on almost anything. And so right there, some of your attention is patriated, I think, a little bit when you use something like this. So you just basically go to the site, Google uBlock Origin, install it, and your life is really changed. You'll also notice that maybe, for instance, you in your course, you actually have a lot of YouTube videos. And so from UR courses, you're going to have a link and it's going to open up, say, in a YouTube page. Now, YouTube itself, if you look at YouTube, for the most part, there's a lot going on here. Like, so when you look at, this is just some random place. You've got comments here, you've got all of these related videos. Sometimes these related videos are just so interesting and you end up spending a lot of time here. Now there's research on this. YouTube and Netflix and other companies try to make sure that all of these videos are catered to you. They try to keep you on screen. So it's very tempting to spend a lot of time on YouTube or some other video streaming site to go to these links, and you don't want to have that. So there's something called distraction-free YouTube. I think I put that here. So it's called DFTube. So if you Google that and look for an extension, this is essentially what that does. So you can go, I've installed it here. And so when you activate this and look at the options, you can hide notifications, you can hide the feed, you can disable autoplay. I'm just getting rid of everything. You can get rid of the comments, you can hide the merchandise, disable the playlists. And then once I activate that, and of course this can be customized, you end up, once you put on there, every YouTube video you go to will just look like this. It's just basically your YouTube video, and all of this distraction stuff is gone. So you can really focus really just on the video itself. And then perhaps you won't be taken aback by, you know, the sort of the allure of those videos that are there. Another one called Mercury Reader is quite good as well. So Mercury Reader is another Chrome extension, and I'll show you the way it works. Say you're reading a CBC article. I'll just go to some random one. Now this works on any text source as well. Okay, so for instance, even looking at something like an article here, you're going to see lots of stuff here. Actually, CBC is not too bad, and I've already got rid of some of the ads already. They're already gone because of Adblock. But it's still not the most readable page, and if you want to change that, there's one again called Mercury Reader, which I believe is on. Is it this one? Where is it? Where are you? Not this one. Maybe I don't have it on right now. Well, I'll show you how to install one. So if you have Mercury Reader, let me Google it. And I don't want this there. Okay, Mercury Reader, Chrome. There we go. So I put this here. I must have got rid of it at some point. Add to Chrome. This is basically all you have to do. And then I'll go back to that page. And it shows up as this little rocket ship here. And then, except the rocket ship took off because it's not there. Where'd it go? I'm going to see, I probably, sorry, it disappeared. So when I'm on a site like this and I want to read it, I might be able to find it here. Oh yeah. So basically I can do a right click on it. There is a button that you can put up in the tab, but I guess I didn't have room for it. And then basically when you click on this, on any article that has lots of stuff, what typically happens, open in Mercury Reader. Okay, this one seems to be having some problem. Basically, it makes it much more readable than normally it is. So all of the pictures, the social media icons, everything, you just get the plain text. For some reason, that's having a problem today. OneTab is another one that is really quite good for managing classes. So if you go to a particular class, the instructor might say that these 5 websites are really important on a regular basis. You might have you know, some online portal, you might have the Moodle site or whatever else. And this is where OneTab comes in. I know this one works. So for instance, if you have an arrangement or a collection of tabs that you use often, so maybe this is your productivity tab set, and these are the ones that are really important to you. You get them all up and open, and then you click on this button, OneTab, and it collects them all, and it creates sort of a package. So if I ever, and you can do as many packages as you wanted, you can name this package, and then if you ever want to, you just go restore all, and then all those tabs are set up again. And then you can do the same thing. You can change that, but you can do that really easily. So if you have something like again, this is called OneTab. It just collects all the tabs, puts them into sort of a package, and you can reopen those 10 websites at the same time if you want. So it's a really nice way to organize some of your online spaces that are important to you. You could have one for entertainment. You could have one for, you know, particular classes might have different ones. And of course, you can even share those with others as well. Loom, and Loom is actually a screencasting tool. So what you can do with this tool, basically, and there's other ones like Screencastify, a lot of other ones that are free or freemium. In this particular case, where is Loom? I'll use the one called Screencastify. So this is very similar to Loom, but essentially what this does is you can record a video lecture with permission, of course. Part of a screen, maybe you're creating something in class yourself. And so when you click on this, again, this is just another Chrome extension. You have to, I guess I haven't set this up because it's a newer computer, but if you click on record, you can record the screen. You can decide whether or not you have a webcam on it. You can have a browser tab, but it records it and then it automatically sends the video up to YouTube or a Drive, or you can just share locally if you don't want to put it on the cloud. But it's a good way of maybe taking notes for a particular part, creating something, a presentation for a class, that sort of thing. This one is something called Go Full Page. And so, for instance, if I look on, I'll say my Twitter, and I've asked a few questions recently on my Twitter. And say if I want to collect things and let's see, here we go here. So I actually, yesterday, while I was preparing for this, and this is another thing, oh, that's not the right one. Let's see if I can find the question. And this is actually another thing to think about when you're like, let's see, online. Resources to help learn online. Should be able to find my original one here. Oh, this is not that great. Sorry. Looking for something else. Oh, here we go. So ask this question. So what are your best tips and resources for successful learning online? I got a lot of responses from this. And instead of taking like a screenshot and a bunch of screenshots, what I can actually do with this thing called OnePage, it looks like a little camera. It actually copies and it kind of goes down and copies everything on that scrolling list. So there you can actually keep a whole, it keeps a screenshot of everything in that scroll. So if it's a book or a conversation or whatever it might be, you actually can see the whole list very quickly as a screenshot. So that's a nice way of collecting stuff as well. And then you could maybe just put this right into Google Keep if you wanted to keep it somewhere else. Another one that's really important that I would say one of my top tools is Grammarly. And I was an English major at one point, but I find that I still, I make mistakes, grammar-wise, spelling-wise, I miss things. Grammarly, if you've not used it, is like a spelling checker and grammar checker everywhere. So it's in the email that you send to your professor. It's in the blog post that you're creating for some classes. It's in the learning management system. So it's not just in Word, it's just everywhere. And I'd highly recommend this. I mean, it's got 10 million users. You can use just the free version. It's one of the few tools I pay for. But I got the premium version, which I don't think was too expensive, but it just kind of improves it a little bit as well. So that's one of my favorite by far, which I think if you're writing anything, email or an essay, it's great to use. And this page, and I'll just share this to the text chat as well. And so if you're looking for other ones, and there's lots to look for, so I'm going to go in the chat. And this is just actually the Chrome extension page where you can actually see the key term here is productivity. Productivity there's tons of other free or freemium apps that you can download that are just Chrome extensions that work, and depending on what you want, these can certainly be beneficial for anything you're doing online. And I will stress that you don't have to use all of these tools. Just start with one, use it well. When you feel that you've got that integrated, try another one. I tend to use some, maybe really get into it and use it for a long time. Some I try and I don't like, and that's totally cool. It's a matter of finding the ones that are really important for you. Oops, I've stopped screen sharing for some reason because I clicked the button. 1 second, and I'll screen share as well. All right, I'm hoping this is useful to you so far, or those people who aren't here and maybe see it later. Hope it's useful. Then you're just surviving the semester. I want to share a few points. We've got about 10 minutes left. One of the really important things is connecting with your professors. And I know there are fantastic professors at Campion that are really devoted and concerned about not only your well-being, but your academic performance and so on. And, professors aren't people that are, distant. For the most part, we care about our students, and I think it's really important to actually connect with your professor. And so some tips for that, it's not a bad idea to look up your professor online, find out what you can find, and not just like rate my professors, but actually looking at the research interest, trying to figure out what they're all about. Some people will have limited information, some will have blogs, some will have hobbies and interests. I think it's important to really connect, and hopefully they will be able to connect with you also. And establish and maintain a professional and courteous relationship. This means sending emails that address professors with respect. If just by calling them doctor or professor, I think makes a difference. They may not expect it all the time. If they reply with, or they tell you that you can call me by my first name or a different, something less formal, that's great too. But it's always good to err on the side of more professional and more respectful. It does go a long way. You have to remember that you try to reduce bias, but your experiences with students always resonate. And so if there's one thing about working really, really hard, but it's also good to also, provide a really good perception of you, your work ethic, who you are, and that's going to be really important. Be sure to use the preferred method of communication, and that's often in the syllabus. So if the email is listed there, use an email. If they give you a phone number or something else, use the phone number. But you can ask what's the preferred method of communication. Ask questions in class, after class. Take advantage of virtual office hours, which I think are happening more and more because of this remote teaching. Or if you're able to, if they invite one-to-one meetings or group to professor meetings, those would be great as well. And of course, making participation in class is a priority. And that's when you're even doing your calendar. Say if you have something like if there's an assignment that talks about how many online forum posts or how engaged you have to be in online forums on UR courses or whatever the professor is using, actually schedule some time to do that, like whether it's an hour a week or 3 hours a week or whatever you think is going to do it for each class. That's going to be an important piece. So actually schedule time in your classes to do some of the asynchronous work or to study or to prepare for things. At the same time, because you're going to be on screens for a long time, it's also important to schedule personal things, family things, time with friends, exercise routines, anything that's healthy, really important as well. I would also say developing a learning network is, and this is more you and students, connecting with your classmates as early as possible. If you can, establish some sort of productive communication channel. I know Discord is used in gaming a lot, but that seems to work a lot for students working together. Even using collaborative tools like Google Docs or Google Presentations. If you're creating a group project, it's so easy to create a group Google Slides presentation that you can work on collaboratively, and you don't have to work on it at the same time. You could just, one of your group members can create it, and then you can go in there, separate it into, if you have 4 members, separate it into 4 pieces, and you can create presentations asynchronously. It really helps. Or, as I mentioned before, having common notes is great. Keep each other motivated and on task by setting concrete dates and times for real-time and asynchronous communication. And again, don't forget to celebrate your mutual successes. This shouldn't all be stressful. You have to celebrate, even post-midterm, post-assignment. Just spend some time with each other to not only for your health and enjoyment, but also to develop deeper bonds with the people that you're working with, to keep people on task at a high level of academic performance. And the last thing is just identifying quality online resources. Obviously, there's lots of lectures at YouTube. So if you feel that the recorded lecture that your prof put out kind of got you about 80% there, but you needed more information, obviously seeking out that a similar lecture on YouTube makes a big difference. There are full sites. Sites like Coursera that offer free courses. So you may be able to find a free course that's similar to the course that you're taking. And sometimes that just augments some of the resources that you find, or brings a different experience to it. So go to a site like Coursera, type in a similar topic. Again, if it's like Econ 100, you might be able to find Econ 100 there. And these are typically free. Sometimes you can get a micro credit for them, but they're typically quite high quality and worthwhile checking out. There are sites like MIT OpenCourseWare, which you can go to this is MIT's courses that they put out there for free. And so you can search for a course, you'll see a list of courses that are similar, and then you can often see videos and lectures and whatever else. You can also do this for Harvard, Yale, Stanford, through edX. All have free courses that are available to people. And so this is another way of finding similar information related to your courses. And then if you're working on things like projects and you're looking for images, or you're looking for videos, or whatever it might be, understand what copyleft or the Creative Commons is. This is the OER Commons, which is a site, again, you can always go back and get these links, or I can provide some of them. The Internet Archive is a great place to find free videos, free sounds, free audio. These are all things that you can use. It's important to cite them, but you're not going to get into copyright trouble for using these things in class. And so if you're creating video projects, or if you're creating audio projects, or text project, there's tons of great resources here at the Internet Archive. And there's, again, I mentioned the Creative Commons. I'll show you, I'll go to Google Scholar first. Google Scholar is a great place to look. Obviously, your library should be your first place to look for articles. But sometimes if you're doing just a search to find out, what articles exist out there, Google Scholar is a great way of connecting you to some great resources. And then I just want to share one last link, and this is one that was actually created through someone crowdsourced a question similar to what I did, and a lot of people responded. I'm going to find the chat here. Sorry. Let's see. Okay, I'll find that link. So I'll find the chat, and I'll drop this in. And the reason I want to show you this one is there are some really great resources if you want to learn about really what we did today. So for instance, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll notice that there's lots of resources posting articles on how to do better as successful online learners. Some of these are K-12 focused, but there's lots of universal things there. But what I like is this section here. There's actual courses on things like learning how to learn online, how to be a reflective learner, digital literacy. If you feel that all this stuff is way over your head technically, there's some good stuff there. Essential skills for online learners. These are all courses you can take to improve your ability to learn online or your ability to learn, period. And that's really the key to be successful online learner. It's understanding not just these particular tools, but having the mindset and the skills and the determination to really do well